In the shadows of towering skyscrapers and behind the closed doors of opulent boardrooms, a global game of financial cat-and-mouse unfolds. At the clandestine operation lies the intricate web of offshore tax havens, where the world's wealthiest individuals and most powerful corporations stash their fortunes away from the prying eyes of tax authorities and regulators. This is not just about Robin Hood-esque heroics, where the spoils of the rich are redistributed to the masses. Instead, it is about deception, exploitation, and inequality, where the rich get richer at the expense of the rest. In the labyrinthine world of offshore finance, uncovering the mechanisms by which the wealthy elite hide their wealth and evade their tax obligations. They shine a light on the shadowy networks of shell companies, trusts, and foundations that form the backbone of this secretive industry, revealing the lengths to which the rich and powerful will go to preserve their wealth and privilege. But this is not just about greed and excess. It is also about resistance and resilience. The global impact of offshore tax evasion, the human faces behind the numbers, the millions of people around the world who suffer the consequences of this illicit financial activity. And in the face of this injustice, we issue a call to action, a call for transparency, accountability, and justice for all. In the financial district where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and money flowed like a river, there existed a world unseen by most. It was inhabited by the rich and powerful, where wealth was not merely accumulated, but carefully hidden behind layers of secrecy and deception. This begins with a man named Richard Sterling, a name that carried weight not just in financial circles, but also in the corridors of power. Richard was the epitome of success, with a net worth that could rival small nations. Yet what set him apart was not just his wealth, but his ability to keep it hidden from prying eyes. On the surface, Richard appeared to be a model citizen. He donated generously to charity, attended high-profile events, and even sponsored community projects. But behind this facade of philanthropy lay a complex web of offshore accounts, shell companies, and trust funds designed to shield his wealth from taxation and scrutiny. Richard understood the importance of maintaining the illusion of transparency. He knew that the public craved accountability from the rich and powerful, and he was more than willing to give them what they wanted, or at least the appearance of it. Behind closed doors, however, he operated with a level of secrecy that would make even the most seasoned investigator shudder. To understand how the rich and powerful hide their money, one must first understand the tools they use to do so. Offshore banking, for example, allows individuals to stash their wealth in jurisdictions known for their lax regulations and strict secrecy laws. These offshore accounts are often held in the name of shell companies, which exist only on paper and serve as a front for the true owner's identity. Trust funds are another popular vehicle for concealing wealth. By transferring assets to a trustee, individuals can maintain a degree of control over their wealth while keeping it out of their own name. This not only provides a layer of anonymity, but also protects the assets from creditors and legal claims. Lawyers, accountants, and financial advisors help the wealthy hide their money offshore by exploiting legal loopholes and creating complex structures. Their secrecy comes at a cost. Governments lose revenue, leading to higher taxes for regular citizens. The lack of transparency also deepens inequality and weakens trust in institutions, threatening democracy. Concentrating wealth among the elite worsens poverty and economic mobility for others. In recent years, there has been a growing movement to crack down on offshore tax evasion and increase transparency in financial markets. Governments around the world have implemented measures such as the Common Reporting Standard and the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act to combat tax evasion and money laundering. However, much more needs to be done to hold the rich and powerful accountable for their actions. This will require not only stronger regulations and enforcement mechanisms, but also a shift in societal attitudes towards wealth and privilege. Even the collaboration between countries must be strengthened to close loopholes and prevent individuals and corporations from exploiting differences in regulatory standards. Additionally, education and awareness campaigns can empower citizens to demand greater accountability from their leaders and financial institutions, fostering a culture of transparency and integrity in global finance. The power of transparency. Ultimately, the key to combating offshore tax evasion lies in transparency. By shining a light on the hidden world of offshore finance, we can hold the rich and powerful accountable for their actions and ensure that everyone pays their fair share. This will require a concerted effort from governments, civil society, and the private sector to dismantle the walls of secrecy that have enabled the wealthy elite to operate with impunity for far too long. Transparency is crucial for preventing illegal financial activities and building trust in financial institutions and governments. When people know their finances are being watched, they're more likely to follow tax laws and contribute to society. It also helps level the playing field, so small businesses and regular taxpayers can compete fairly. Promoting transparency in offshore finance isn't just about fairness. It's essential for economic stability and social harmony. Offshore tax evasion doesn't just affect individual countries. It fuels global issues like money laundering, corruption, and terrorism financing. The billions hidden offshore could be used for public services and fighting poverty. By allowing the wealthy to hide their money offshore, we worsen inequality and hurt the poor. Behind every offshore account and shell company lies a human story, one of greed, exploitation, and injustice. While the rich and powerful may reap the rewards of their ill-gotten gains, it is often the most vulnerable members of society who pay the price. In developing countries where resources are scarce and governance is weak, the impact of offshore tax evasion is particularly devastating. Much-needed funds that could be used to alleviate poverty and improve healthcare and education are siphoned off into offshore accounts, leaving millions of people without access to basic services. The time has come for the international community to take decisive action against offshore tax evasion and financial secrecy. This will require a coordinated effort involving governments, international organizations, civil society, and the private sector. First and foremost, we must strengthen international cooperation and information sharing to ensure that tax evaders and money launderers cannot simply hop from one jurisdiction to another. This will require the implementation of common reporting standards and the establishment of robust mechanisms for exchanging financial information between countries. Secondly, we must close the loopholes that allow the wealthy elite to exploit offshore tax havens for their own gain. This will require reforms to tax laws and financial regulations to ensure that everyone pays their fair share and that no one can hide their wealth behind a veil of secrecy. Finally, we must address the root causes of offshore tax evasion, including corruption, inequality, and lack of transparency. This will require not only political will and leadership, but also a shift in societal attitudes towards wealth and privilege. In conclusion, the issue of how the rich and powerful hide their money is not merely a matter of financial regulation, but a fundamental question of fairness and justice. The pervasive use of offshore tax havens and opaque financial structures undermines the integrity of our global financial system, deprives governments of vital revenue, and perpetuates economic inequality. However, there is hope on the horizon as efforts to increase transparency and combat tax evasion gain momentum. Through concerted action from governments, civil society, and the private sector, we can dismantle the systems of secrecy that enable the wealthy elite to operate with impunity. By holding the rich and powerful accountable for their actions and ensuring that everyone pays their fair share, we can build a more equitable and sustainable future for all. Only through transparency and accountability can we truly achieve a world where justice prevails and prosperity is shared by everyone.